Alrighty everybody, welcome to this video. So at Christmas just passed, I was lucky enough to get a copy of Goosebumps Terror in Little Creek from my sister and her partner as a present. So I fired through the game, I loved it, and I noticed a lot of Easter eggs and references. I needed to do a second playthrough in order to get the Platinum Trophy, so I thought while I was doing that, I'll take some video of all the Easter eggs and references I noticed in the game. So here we go, let's have a look and see what I found. This Easter egg, which has got a sign next to the lake that says no swimming, no surfing, no haunting, is a reference to the Goosebumps book Ghost Beach. So if it's not on the UK cover here, but if we look at the American cover, we can see that that's the tagline here on the cover. So that's quite a nice wee Easter egg referencing Ghost Beach. Throughout the game you'll find these crystal balls that will give you hints if you get stuck in the game, but these are, I think they're a reference to the Goosebumps book Be Careful What You Wish For. There's a crystal ball heavily involved in the plot in that story, as you can see here on the cover on the American version. It's not on the UK version cover, but yeah, you can quite clearly see it. Now if you want to avoid this happening to you, like a monster dropping from the sky and landing on you, you've got to keep an eye out for these splodges of green slime on the ground, which I think is a reference to the Goosebumps book series Monster Blood. Whenever you see one of these green splodges, you'll see a monster hanging either on the ceiling, off a tree, a lamppost. All you've got to do is give it a quick hit and it'll die, which leads us into the next Easter egg once I take care of this one. So on the wall over here you'll see a poster to see the brilliant Amazo. So this is from the Goosebumps book Bad Hair Day. This is one of the most obvious Easter eggs in the game, but it's pretty cool. So every now and again you'd hear this. And I'd always wonder what the hell was that until I noticed eventually there was a little gnome sticking out of this bush. And it turns out if these things have popped up and you don't see them, they'll laugh at you. So these are clearly from the Goosebumps book series Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes, but they are clearly taking their look from the Goosebumps movie from about 10 years ago.
Not friendly. Definitely not friendly.
One of the first things I noticed when I entered the theatre was the carpet here, and it's in several different hallways in the theatre, and this is clearly from the Stanley Kubrick movie The Shining, based on Stephen King's book. It's a very famous carpet pattern, and I thought this was quite a cool little Easter egg. So here it is in the movie, so that you can have a quick look. So yeah, it does definitely look just like it did in The Shining. In the backstage area of the theatre, you'll hear this piano just randomly playing, either before or after you speak to the officer Pickett. And once you enter this room, it stops suddenly, but it does get quite quick. But I think this is a reference to piano lessons can be murder. It's not my favourite Goosebumps book, but it's quite a good one. So this is another cool Easter egg. So this is a haunted mirror that your friend has been trapped in. I think this is a reference to Let's Get Invisible, and that there is a mirror that would make you go invisible. You can get trapped in it. So I don't think it's the same mirror from the book, because you find this letter saying that someone's found it in the basement and they're giving it as a gift. And the reason I don't think it's the same mirror is because you later find another note talking about Max Thompson from the book Let's Get Invisible and how he's recounting what happened, and well, that mirror gets destroyed at the end of this book, so it just makes me think there's maybe more than one haunted mirror in the Goosebumps universe. But it's quite a cool little Easter egg. So still in the theatre, there's a couple cool wee movie Easter eggs. The first one, you find this poster for The Witch of the Wiz, which I think could be a reference to either The Wizard of Oz or possibly the Michael Jackson remake The Wiz. It could be a reference to either, but I'm pretty sure that's a pretty strong contender for that. If we walk over here, we see a poster for something called Crooner, and it's a man standing leaning against a car, so I think this might be a reference to, which happens to be one of my favourite sketches from the show I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. So in this sketch, just a guy driving his car with a hat and a cigar decal on his window, calls himself the driving crooner, and all he wants to do is try and make some money from it.
I gotta figure out how to make money on this thing. It's simply too good.
But unfortunately for him, I think someone's made a play or stage show based on the driving crooner, and they're the ones making money on it, unfortunately for him. During this annoying section in the library, you'll see this jar sitting on top of a bookshelf. It's filled with worms, and on it says Todd's Science Fair Project. This is clearly a reference to Todd from Go Eat Worms. Not my favourite Goosebumps book or TV episode, but it's a pretty nice Easter egg and reference right here. Also, during this section of the library, you'll find this book on this table that says Flying Lessons. It's not the clearest Easter egg or reference, but I think this could be a reference to the book How I Learned to Fly. So it could be a reference to this, it might not be, but I think it is. Now downstairs in the library toilets, you'll find this bottle of instant tan on the sink, and this is an easy reference to the Goosebumps book My Hairiest Adventure. So the TV episode was not bad, the book is okay, so yeah, it could be reference. Now on this street, in the house across from yours, you'll find this pumpkin jack-o'-lantern sitting on the step. There's no references it to being Halloween or even near Halloween in the game, this is literally it. So it makes me believe that this is a reference to the book Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns. It could be, it could not be, but it must be. And still on this street, in the house next door to yours, if you walk up to the step, you'll hear this. Really loud barking, you can't see any dogs, so that just makes me think that it's a very slim chance that this is a reference to the Goosebumps book The Barking Ghost, which coincidentally was my first ever Goosebumps book I read. I remember getting this as a present, and this is the book that got me into reading and started my love for Goosebumps. So on a random bench in the park, you'll find this postcard from Pasadena. So this is clearly a reference to the Goosebumps book, The Abominable Snowman of Pasadena. So yeah, there was no TV episode of this, but it did make an appearance in the Goosebumps movie, which I quite liked. This one I didn't find until my second playthrough, because it's quite hard to find, but on this random porch you'll find this card that says Carew, Marie, O'Donna, Loma, Molonu, Karana. Now this is a reference to the spell that brings the dummies to life in the Night of the Living Dummy series, my favourite series in all of the Goosebumps books. I love these books, and it's a cool little Easter egg. I wish we would have found Slappy the dummy in the game, but alas, he's not in the game unless you buy the upgrade pack where you can wear his face as a mask. In the attendance booth at the gas petrol station is a flyer for Horrorland, which is only 15 miles away, which is a very obvious reference to One Day at Horrorland, a fantastic Goosebumps book, a pretty good Goosebumps TV episode, and they made a pretty average to okay couple of games based on the Horrorland series. You'll find a reference to the Goosebumps book Vampire Breath in this note that mentions Freddie Martinez, who was born a vampire but he didn't know about it until he discovered his vampire grandfather living in his parents' basement. Pretty decent wee reference. Now once you get this hallway opened up later on in the game in the theatre, you will see this poster on the wall advertising Camp Jelly Jam. This is a very easy reference to the Goosebumps book The Horror Camp Jelly Jam. I really love this book, and the TV episode was fantastic, and if you turn the camera just this way, you'll notice there's even a website for campjellyjam.com at the bottom, and that website works, so give it a try. In this room in the theatre, you'll see these mannequins standing, and you've got to do a puzzle to get some props out of here. So I could be stretching with this reference, but once you've got the props out, make sure you've done the puppet theatre before you open this or it won't work. Once you've picked up all your props, when you turn around, all the mannequins will have moved to block your way. They've changed positions. So I think this could be a reference to either the Weeping Angels from Doctor Who, like I said, I'm stretching here, or it could be a reference to the mannequins that move around whenever you're not looking in Resident Evil 7. It could just be a coincidence, but that's the first things that popped in my mind when I seen them. As well as finding the random odd note or newspaper article with some lore or Easter eggs in it in the game, you'll find these USB sticks which belong to a group called the Monster Society in the game. You never see them, but you find their USB sticks, and once you read these USB sticks you'll find the following bits of lore with good references. On this USB drive, it is talking about the ghosts and stuff, and it also mentions Brooke Rogers, who happens to be a character from the Goosebumps book, The Phantom of the Auditorium, which makes me think that, well, the Phantom in this game is clearly not the same Phantom from the book, so it makes me think that maybe the show or play itself is cursed. So if you happen to be under an accident while doing this particular show or play, you become basically the Phantom. This next USB is talking about resurrected mummies, basically, and it even makes mentions of the characters Sari Hassad, her cousins Gabe Sandry, and Ben Hassad, who is Gabe's uncle, who are all characters from the Goosebumps books The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb and Return of the Mummy. Now, I love these episodes and books as a kid, so I thought this was a nice, good reference. This next USB is talking about werewolves, and it specifically mentions the characters Alex Hunter and Grady Tucker. These are characters from Werewolf Skin and The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. This was a good little reference here, and it gives you some good information. The next USB doesn't have a theme, it's just about a Monster Society meeting and what they're going to discuss. One of the things they're going to discuss is how to confront a ghoul that lives beneath your kitchen sink, and this is a very obvious reference to the Goosebumps book, It Came From Beneath the Sink. I love this book, I thought it was great. It shouldn't have worked, but I thought I loved it as a kid and I still do to this day, and I love the UK cover to it here. And there's even a second mention of how to deal with abominable snowmen here in this USB. The final USB is all about haunted masks and their risks. It even mentions the characters Carly Beth Caldwell and Steve Boswell and getting the masks out of store. And these are the characters from the books The Haunted Mask and The Haunted Mask 2, where they put on haunted masks and they struggled to get them off without having to take drastic measures in the end. Also, I think this might also be a haunted mask reference if you listen what the character says. So the character Carly Beth, I'm pretty sure it's called Freddy Cat or Scared the Cat a few times in The Haunted Mask. That could be a reference, it could just be a coincidence, and I might just be stretching. So this is the first reference I found in the game, but I've saved it to second last. So when you first get into the library, you find this note here, and it mentions the Morton family. So the Morton family references Mr. Morton, who was in the Goosebumps book, The Girl Who Cried Monster, who turned out to be a monster, and that leads into the next Easter egg. But before we go into what the next Easter egg is, it could be seen as a spoiler, so if you don't want to know the big twist at the end of the game, you can end the video here if you'd like. But if you want to know what the last Easter egg that I found in the game and reference is, continue watching. So the final Easter egg is you find this note just before the last boss of the game, basically, and it reveals that your character's family is the monsters from the Goosebumps book, The Girl Who Cried Monster. Her grandparents are the mum and dad from the book who eat Mr. Morton at the end of the book. And so basically the whole story is the monster of this game is the niece of Mr. Morton and is looking to get revenge on that family by taking out on you and your mum and dad. So that's all the references and Easter eggs and things that I spotted while playing this Goosebumps game. There are probably a few more that I've missed, or probably loads more that I've missed. If you've noticed any that I haven't put in here, put it in the comments down below so that I've got a reason to fire up the game and go find it myself. I hope you've enjoyed this one and hope you join us again in the next one. And if you liked what you've seen and you're not already subscribed, please hit that like or subscribe button, and don't forget, have a good one.